What factors play a role for the price of stump grinding? Depends on the area. How close are you from the stump? That's the first thing. Like if you live right down the street from the person that needs the stump grinding done, how easy is it to access the stump? How big is the stump? And here's how we measure stumps. Here's how you measure a stump. You got a stump, and customers like to measure across the stump this way. That's not how you measure a stump entirely. Majority of stumps always have, where it extends on the ground before it hits the grass. All this is usually above the ground, just a tad, and that's going to need to be grinded away. So you got where it goes up, and then it flares out. All this needs to be grinded. We measure across the widest portion, so from here all the way to here is how you measure it. Now, grinding wise is different. I grind a little bit further out until, if usually the color around here, it isn't as bright color, and it's due to the roots underneath of it, just not a lot of soil underneath of it. So I just grind a little bit further until the ground stop changing colors, or starts changing colors, so from it going from brown to green. So I like to keep it around the green area, so I just grind outside of that area, and that's how I do stumps. How much should you charge for stump grinding? And should you do hourly? The only reason to ever do hourly is if you have a dinky machine. If you have a small machine, you might be able to make some money doing the hourly thing. If you have a big machine, it's probably not gonna be worth it. You put all that money in that machine to do a lot of stumps and do it quickly. You want to be as efficient as possible, and not put a lot of hours on your pricey machine. Is stump grinding cheaper than stump removal? Yes, definitely. And it kind of depends on the property and how many stumps you're doing too. Because here's a factor. I got an excavator too. I got stump grinders, I got an excavator, and I dig them up, I grind them either or. But if you're near a utility line, you really want to stick to a stump grinder. It's safer because you could just grind a few inches below ground level and you can't visibly see it, and you can get some dirt, get your grass seed going, and in a few months or even a month or so, you might have good looking grass in that area. An excavator, you'd have to dig up that whole stump. You might hit a utility line. Plus, once you get the stump out, what are you going to do with it? So if you live in the city, you're going to have to haul that away. If you live out in the country, you could probably pile them all up and put them in a corner. Or even possibly burning stumps is not easy. Everybody thinks it's easy. It's not easy. And here's the reason why. You got a lot of dirt on there. I've burned stumps, and I do burn them when I'm clearing lots, but they're not as easy as just burning brush. The only way you can get a stump to get, burn up, I dig a pit, and I get some dry, brush in there, and I start burning the brush, and I get it real hot. Once it starts getting red hot, then I'll throw a stump on there, but I keep piling brush on there just to keep that thing going. And the only way that thing's going to burn is from the coals. It's not burning really too much from the fire. It's from the coals that really, that tears up the stump. So stump grinding is a whole lot cheaper than total stump removal. But sometimes you have to totally remove the stump if you're putting in foundation, stuff like that, and you don't want it to crack. Might be an option. It just really depends on your goal. If you're flipping the property, if you're staying in the property and you don't want it to crack. So there are different goals too for them too. Do you charge per stump or by the hour? And it depends on the property. Most properties, you just look at it and say, I'm going to be in and out, but you also look at the size of the machine. You look at the where you're grinding out, if there's any rocks. If it's straight up just dirt, that's fantastic. That's what you want. But you start getting metal fences and rocks, and then you start tearing up a bunch of teeth. And then not only do you got to pay for new teeth, you got to put them on too. So you got some expenses in there too. But if you're clearing a property and then you're coming back with the stump grinder and you're doing all the stumps, I always give somebody a bulk discount, especially when they have a lot of stumps on the property. I give them a good discount. But you also got to get your minimum too. We have minimums out here, and everybody's random, and sometimes, you know, people change their minimums throughout the year too, especially slow seasons. When it's busy, you could hold those minimums much higher. And when somebody wants it done, they'll pay it if they really want it done. How long does stump grinding take? Depends on the stump grinder and the stump. You get a big old stump, and then you get a little grinder, and then you can spend a lot of time on there, and you might have a lot of problems. Smaller machines. I remember my old little 252 Vermeer. It was only 25 horsepower. And I went through, you know, I tried the bigger stumps. I tried just because I saw the bigger guys making money off of it. And then I remember a couple 4 or 5 footers, and I'd be on it for hours, many hours on one stump. I remember, what was it, 4 or 5 foot stump, maybe a 5 foot stump. And I think I was on that thing for 4 or 5 hours or something, maybe even more, to be honest, because that stump grinder has an electronic clutch. And the problem with the electronic clutch is it starts eating at the battery when it's holding on. So you'll burn down, even with the alternator powering it. I went through batteries. I went through it was just hard keeping that clutch engaged the whole time without that machine turning it off. So I remember carrying around a jump box just to finish stumps. So you don't want to, and plus, after I got done grinding it with that little 252, it looked like trash. It didn't look good. But you'll get a big old machine that go in there. He could be in and out quick. And he could do a better job, go down deeper, make it look so much nicer. And he could charge a little bit less if he really wanted to. That's really what you need to do. You need to put the right stump to the right grinder. You know, you're not going to want to put a big grinder in a small space, so you usually want to put the small grinders in a small space where they fit. Big grinders, you want them on big stumps. How soon can you plant after you're done stump grinding? Well, it depends on the stump, to be honest, but usually the same day. And it depends on what you're planting too. How deep you're going in there. If you're putting in a tree, let's say you just grinded a huge stump, 6 foot wide, and then you're putting a tree in there. A tree's roots got to go far under the ground, and if you still got stump in there, it might be a problem. It might harm that plant. So you want to give it the best opportunity for growth. So you grind as much as you can, as deep as you could get it in that area. I mean, if you're just putting in a tomato plant or something small, then you ain't got to go as deep. But you can plant it the same exact day. Will a stump grinder damage your yard? I think the first question is your yard wet? If your yard's wet, then anything's going to damage it. I could walk in somebody's yard, and if I just hear squishiness on it, I could probably leave footprints. But if it's nice dry, you're not really going to mess up the yard. I mean, you get people with tracks that go in there, and when they take the turn, then the tracks start tearing up stuff when they make those turns. Wheeled ones are pretty good. But tracks are great for so you don't get stuck. I mean, they all have their purpose. It's just a tool. Each tool is different and designed differently. Should I mark the lines before somebody grinds my stump? And it depends. Most of the time I don't. Most of the time we're not going that deep. And the only reason you would probably want to mark the line is if you're getting real close, you know there's a gas line there, and you want to go, you want to do a good job, so you want to go below ground level a good amount. I had a customer the other day. He hit a gas line putting in a driveway. They had the gas line only 6 inches under they weren't supposed to be that low. They ended up getting in trouble. They got a fine. They didn't get a fine, but the company that installed it got a fine and had to come back out there and fix it and do all that, because in Virginia we're supposed to be 2 foot below ground level or more. So it was only 6 inches, underneath of the driveway. The driveway was, I think, 4 inches, 4-inch thick driveway. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 inches. So he had another, you know, a foot and a couple inches on top of that he needed to be by state regulations. So you can call Miss Utility. It doesn't hurt, but most of the time I don't. And the only reason you would probably also call is if cable boxes. If you see a cable box, there's probably lines all around there. And I try to stay away from cable boxes, to be honest. I think it's a high likelihood that a line would be within that area. A lot of those technicians, they're real lazy. They don't want to dig. They just want to install it. They get paid per work order, a lot of them do. So they just want to install it, get to the next one, and get to the next one. And they don't really pay attention to all that. They're just trying to make their money. So I try to not go very deep near cable boxes, especially. Is stump grinding required before selling a property? No, not at all. Not at all, most of the time. What's the best time of the year to get stump grinding done? Summertime. Everybody's out and about. Stump grinders, they're floating around, making their money. They might be in a close proximity. If they're in a close proximity, while they're already, let's say they got 5 jobs for the day. They're rolling around. You know, wintertime, I don't make no money out here. Virginia, we don't make no money out here in the wintertime. But during the summertime, you might have 5 jobs lined all up, maybe even more, maybe less. And if you're floating around that area, let's say I'm already one neighborhood over and somebody calls me, I need a stump grinded, or I need a couple stumps grinded, I'm going to probably hook them up if they need to be hooked up. So your best opportunity to get a good deal is summertime.